Wade is guarding Bryant. Artest looking, gets it to Bryant. Bryant dribbling, has to put it up with the buzzer. Banks it in! Oh, he banks in the three! And the Lakers win the game!
Good morning and welcome back live from Austin, Texas. Here we are for Winning on Wednesday. What is up? I'm your normal host, Tony Merwin. We got that dude over there, Joe Camper, always in the house.
Yes, sir. Baby, I just had one sip of coffee. I was feeling a little tired this morning. I was telling you guys I was out late playing softball, man. I had one sip of coffee. That intro just got me hyped, baby. I'm ready to go, man.
Did you win? That's what's important.
Softball. Yeah. That wasn't going to be the win because I sucked last night. I did have some good hits. They caught me. You know the ump, Cedric, who I'm friends with. He caught me leaving the bag early on a fly ball. Said I didn't tag up, and then that was our third out, which made us ultimately lose the second game. We won the first game, but it wasn't definitely because of me. But I'll tell you what we did win this past weekend, baby. Texas Redwood. Yeah, it's kind of cool. It's got this weird iridescent on the side, but it's cool. Got a fat ring. Got a new got some new bats again, dude. I'm just stocking back up. But that's got to be the win, just because Texas Redwood, the Dallas team that we have, they are top 5 in the country when it comes to the C division of U-Trip ball. So if any of you guys know softball, they're literally top 5 in the country in power rankings. And then Texas Redwood is, I believe we're top. I want to say we're like top 5 in Texas in our division. But everybody's just, the Redwood teams have just been on a roll, dude, and we're just freaking winning. But they had to play all night, man. And I'm like, okay, I'm so glad. I was going to take the girls out and spend the day out there. But they had to literally play. The championship game was at 7 a.m. the next morning. Whoa. The next morning. I was just like, y'all are crazy, but hey, you know what? It's winning on win, and we still won the championship, baby. So yeah, that's my win. And actually too, I had to give a quick shout out to Luke Akery. So my new magazines just got in. If you guys haven't checked out Reminder Media, Luke Akery runs our Monday mindset call. But just got my little batch of 50. Give them to just some agents that we're close with, as well as kind of high net worth clients. Great retention tool. Great way to really get in front of people. So
shout out to Luke. Reminder Media, they're about 3 to 4 weeks away from launching the Spanish magazine.
Oh, really? I didn't hear that.
Yes, sir. Because I've seen Andrew the last 2 events, right? He was up at SWAT. Mm-hmm. He was at the Six-Figure Medicare Agent Summit over in Salt Lake, and he updated me both times. It's like, we're like 4 weeks away. They're finishing some final proofs. He's hoping to show up at Invictus with some copies, some proofs, so to speak, to kind of pass them out and let people check them out. So we'll see. But yeah, super excited about that.
Sweet. Well, what's you excited about? What's the weekly win? What you got?
Best one, 100%. We are sold out of VIP tickets at Invictus. Done. Sold out. As a matter of fact, technically, we're oversold on VIP tickets. So get excited about that. But yeah, we're down to we got some general admission tickets available. Got a good handful of those. Still room in the hotel. So come on down. We'd love to have you. But yeah, we are effectively sold out of VIP. So those tickets got chewed up quick. And I don't blame them because they get some extra perks. They get an extra VIP dinner. They get a few little things, get to sit closer to the stage, all that good stuff. So excited. That event is, right at 4 weeks away. So we're pumped to kick it off. It's going to be a good time. And they're going to get fed fat. We got a good menu
Hey,
lined up for them. That's for
anybody, yeah, I
sure.
was gonna say anybody that's going. I saw Tony scrolling through the menu for like hours yesterday. So, or was it 2 days ago? So
Yeah, it was
he's like,
Monday.
you guys are gonna be eating real good for sure. It's awesome, man. Well, I'm excited for you. I know that's going to be, I mean, it's the first of its kind, right? Super
Mhm.
powerful. So, again, guys, it's the Spanish only event, right? So, if you're bilingual or Spanish, definitely check out invictusconference.com. You'll be able to see the details there, pick up some tickets if you guys are trying to go. Room block for the Omni. I'll be there. I'll be running around. I'm not going to be in the conference, but I'll be running around helping, checking out the Riverwalk there in San Antonio. So, good stuff, man. Well, speaking of exciting, I am actually very excited to have our guest on the call. I hit him with a short notice, was like, yo, can you hop on in like literally 48 hours? But he made time, and I know he's super busy. But y'all, if you guys haven't heard of Rob Lopez and Viva, well, you're about to, but they do some amazing things on the virtual assistant side. And then Rob's background just in insurance really is what, I think has allowed them to excel in the virtual assistant space as well. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get Mr. Rob Lopez on. What's going on, my man?
Hey, good morning, Syndicate family. This is exciting. Thank you, guys.
Sir.
Thank you for coming out. We appreciate it.
Always a pleasure.
So,
yeah, real quick.
yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead, Ty. No,
I was
you
going to
got
say,
it. That's
Joe has introduced me to you, kind of told me a little bit about what you're about, but you seem to be new to face to the syndicate. So if you don't mind, just take a little moment and let our viewers kind of know who you are, what you're up to, and where you're from.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, I feel like I've lived, 3 of my allotted 9 lives, in insurance here within just the past probably 10 to 12 years. Started as a captive agent like most of us do. That was back in 2003. And right around 2005, 2006, we had 3 storms: Hurricane Rita, Wilma, and Katrina, right?
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, the property market here in Texas was gone. And I bled blue. My father worked for Allstate as a national, catastrophe kind of claims leader for Allstate nationwide. For a number of years, he retired after 42 years. My mom did anything from kind of claims management to underwriting. My brother was a captive agent. I was a captive
oh
agent.
wow.
My wife worked in underwriting. So we bled blue about any, more than just about any family that you would know. And so I kind of held on and said, no, this is my calling. I'm going to be an Allstate agent. So I just kind of waited for property markets. And it was right around the 1 year mark of, yep, a property market's coming, just wait, that I kind of started to flirt with the idea of going independent. And, you know, as a captive agent, especially one that did not have, markets for as long as I did, I just realized that that was a feeling that I hated, and I never wanted to be in that position again. So when I went independent, I went, kind of balls to the wall, got every market I could, made every mistake you could possibly make, because it's exciting when people let you sign a contract and all of a sudden I had to feed all of these markets, and then some of these markets were non-standard and they just weren't a fit. But I fell in love with the idea that I finally had choices. And so what did I do? I started to build up a team. We smiled and dialed. We had telemarketers. We had all kinds of stuff. And I realized that there was this constant churn. And so it was way back then in about 2007, I think, that I started to outsource, basically people to help me make some calls, because I had a bunch of markets and I needed to feed them. And
Yep.
so that's how I kind of started to get into the outsourcing, business. But very quickly, I had a GA at the time called Integra. This is before I turned them into an aggregator, that kept coming at me and saying, "How are you, getting the quote volume that you're getting? This is kind of, interesting." And I basically had built a program where I would reach out to captive agents and say, "Look, park your policies over here that you can't write. I know I just left that, that situation. I will not cross sell them." And we kind of built this really kind of neat system. And all of a sudden I started to have carrier reps showing up like, "What are you doing? What's going on?" And it was very soon after that that Rex Lowry, the founder, and former owner, and his son Shane Tatum, with Integra, reached out to me and said, "Hey, listen, we've been trying to kind of grow and open up branch locations, and we kind of feel like you would be a great, kind of first agency. But beyond that, we want you to help us recruit other agents." And so I became one of their first sales directors, eventually their national sales director, turned them into an aggregator. After the 7 years, I think we had 130 something locations that I had personally recruited, trained, and onboarded.
Come on now.
And that's when I started to find Facebook groups, and I met a good business guy, here in Houston that said, "Hey, if you're able to recruit that many agents by going all the way to Lufkin, Texas, they fly into Houston and then you drive them into the sticks for 2 hours to go to Lufkin. Imagine what you can do here in your backyard in Houston." So I started another aggregator, the Greenway Agency Network. Did that for a couple of years, and I just realized that what. I kind of don't like working for other people. I kind of want to do my own thing.
Own thing.
And so it was at that time that I kind of left that environment, pretty quickly, and realized it wasn't a fit. And right as I was starting my own agency, I had a franchise operation that hired me to be their president of personal lines, and they wanted me to kind of help them grow this franchise organization. And we're going to compete with the Bright Ways out there. And I said, great, let's do it. Did that for about a little bit over a year or so, and realized that this company didn't really have the capital to kind of keep up with the Bright Ways of the world.
Right.
And so from that point on, I said, look, I've worked for many other people. It's time to do my own thing, and started my brokerage, Infinity Insurance, and here in Houston, and that's been going great. But then the pandemic hit, and all of a sudden, here in the U.S., we were paying people to stay home for safety reasons, and I had a new agency that I wasn't going to let just kind of sit back and wait for a year and a half to figure out what things are going to be.
Right.
So I kind of took my future into my own hands, and I started to kind of reach out to outsource, kind of Smile and Dial, and that's how Viva started. But really, it was very similar to the first story I told you with Integra. I started to have carrier reps going, we're at a time when none of my agents are doing anything. It's
Are not
impossible
growing.
for me to
Right.
get a hold of them. No one's growing. How is your quote volume going up and up? And I'm going, I don't have time to sit around. And then I told one of my carriers, I said, when in the history, at least since I've been around, has there been an opportunity to where everyone is sitting at home, right? I know if I reach out to these people, they're going to answer the phone, if for no other reason, because they've seen every rerun. They've seen all these episodes on Netflix. Everything has been downloaded and streamed by now. I'm going to start making some money. And it was at that point that I had several carrier reps that said, you know what, to their agents, you need to talk to Rob, because he's one of the only agents that seems to be growing within this kind of new pandemic, season. And I didn't set out to build a virtual assistant company. I literally set out to build my own team, and do it effectively and efficiently. And it was all of the agents that started to reach out to me that made me go, hey, you know what? Maybe we've got something here.
So what do you
And we
know? Maybe I should start a VA company.
Absolutely. We weren't the first VA company. And I've used them all, right? I did the work at home veteran employee route. I loved it, but then, getting them to adapt to technology and CRMs was nearly impossible. Ani Potter and I are great friends. I did the Marble Box deal. I just didn't like the fact that I was always having to retrain that team leader. And then it always was like a kind of a game of telephone, and nobody likes that, right? Where I teach one person and then they start to teach the process. And then before I know it, I'm like, what are you guys doing? This isn't at all what I asked you to do. So I just felt like that team approach wasn't going to, work with me. And, I was a part of, another, well, now one of my competitors, and kind of building them up at one of those prior aggregators. And so I just kind of realized what I needed. And what I needed was people that were going to be available, that were here local time zones. And that's kind of how Viva happened. I knew that I didn't want to go the Asian Pacific route in India or the Philippines, because I hated how long it took for me to get a response after 1 or 2 o'clock. I get back from lunch. I've got 2 or 3 big things I need to get done, so
Right.
I can step away and go spend time with the family. And if you're 14 hours ahead, 2 o'clock is now 4 a.m. for them.
Right.
It doesn't matter how much you pay somebody. Yes, they will work hard, as long as you pay them well, but eventually life's going to catch up. They're going to get
Yeah.
sick. They need to go see a doctor in their time zone. One of their kids, has something going on at school, and it was that missed productivity that made me go, you know what? Let me just look down on the map and figure out who can I outsource to that's going to be available when I need them. And little did I know the need and the power that comes with having bilingual virtual assistants. So that's really kind of how Viva started, and that's a little bit about my long-winded story.
I love it. Well, and I have to clarify because we do have a lot of life and health people in here.
Sure.
When he's saying he's built a bunch of aggregators, think of them like IMOs, right? Josh Lustig said this to me years ago. He goes, because I kept telling everybody, yeah, we're like an aggregator kind of cluster setup, and everybody on the life and health side is like, what the hell is that?
Yeah.
Think of it like a PNC IMO, guys, and Integra and Greenway and obviously Infinity now, and I know Rob, obviously we've talked a little bit backstage before,
Right.
guys, like he ain't no joke, and it is very difficult coming from somebody who literally is actively running an aggregator right now. It ain't easy, and to do that multiple times over, I think that's just very impressive because it was more, even though you did it over, it was still more of a promotion, right? Because it's like, hey, I'm kind of getting this much closer to really what you were pursuing, what you were trying to chase down. So kudos to you. And it's like, yeah, anybody that doesn't know what an aggregator is, it's basically he's run a bunch of freaking PNC IMOs and has done a really good job at it. And so, I guess kind of, well, actually real quick too, I did want to touch on the time zones.
Sure.
I think obviously we use VIVA. So guys, they are a virtual assistant company. We have multiples through them. I was looking through the website yesterday. You'll see my picture smack dab in the middle, baby, when you go to that website for a good review. But I love the time zones because it is a little bit different. And I almost kind of feel selfish in a way when I make somebody work their nights.
Right.
It's like, hey, you got to work my day, so you got to stay up all night, right? And then, like you said, life does catch up. So I love that, like pretty much everybody's working their day with us. And that's,
Absolutely.
I don't know. I think it creates more of that team environment where it's not like, hey, they're staying up all night grinding in their kitchen, trying to make calls or whatever while their family's sleeping. I just think I wanted to point that out because I think that is important. And really, I've heard too on the Chris Green told me this, which is why he likes you guys as well, because of the Philippines having a lot of storms. You're kind of talking about storms and stuff where, hey, that can wipe out internet, for a few days, if not maybe a week or 2 weeks or whatever. So I thought that was cool. Wanted to point that out. And so kind of let's go. I'm not really, I was going to ask you what you were doing before insurance, but literally you just named everybody in your family is freaking from insurance. So that's probably a no-brainer that you just come from it like I do. But let's start it at Infinity.
Yeah.
As you've because I know you kind of were building Infinity to kind of be like an aggregator, right? But then the Viva kind of took up, maybe kind of break down some of that and what Infinity, what it kind of started out to be and how you were able to pivot and what you're doing now.
Yeah, absolutely. So, so I've never met a good setup that I just don't want to kind of go. So let me just answer what I did before insurance. So I actually studied broadcast journalism. I worked for the Houston Rockets for 5 seasons. I was part of their broadcast team. Back then we had the WNBA Comets, we had the Houston Thunder Bears, which was an arena football team, and so I was always part of the on-air kind of team that did all of those things. More behind the scenes with the Rockets, right? But Craig Ackerman, the voice of the Rockets, one of my best friends. I was in his wedding. I mean, these are people that I grew up with.
Dang, I should have freaking asked the
Yeah,
question.
well, what
That's
I've
freaking
realized
awesome.
is how difficult it is to make a living in broadcasting, right? You have to be because it's a wonderful job and opportunity. I mean, you're trading off your evenings and weekends. Very hard to start a family, and you have to be willing to grind, because if you're not willing to do it, somebody else will gladly take that opportunity, right? And so that's a little bit about kind of what I did before. But at some point, my dad looked at me and he's like, "Look, that's fine. I'm glad you've had a lot of fun, but when you're ready to get to work, I've laid out the blueprint, if you will, and let me know." And so, it took me a while to really enjoy insurance. As a matter of fact, I hated it the first year or so, but there was that first kind of claims experience to me that my dad was able to sweep in and go, "Look, this is what you do every single day. This is how you help and make a difference," that made me fall in love with it. So I'm an insurance
I like
geek, so
that.
I'll talk about the past and the present, at any time. But yeah, just to kind of go go back to the kind of the question that you asked. Actually, you know what? Why don't you ask it again? Because
It's
I don't want to go
so
in the wrong way.
Infinity,
Yeah, Infinity.
Infinity, and kind of talk about and I think it's important too because aggregation is big right now.
Yep.
It is, and acquisition's kind of coming back as well. And so I think anybody specifically on the PNC side that's, hey, you know what? I'm doing some things right. I've
Yes.
got some agents reaching out to me, right? Maybe just even kind of talk about what potentially looks like the setup. Obviously, you and me could talk about this forever, and there's definitely different models. But just maybe talk about the creation of Infinity, but then how it's transformed, and then how you've kind of been able to pivot. Because Viva's a full-time freaking job,
It
but then
is.
you
It
still
is.
have Infinity doing its thing.
Yeah. So yeah, and I'm glad I had perpetuation in my mind, and it's because that's part of the answer. So when I started Infinity, I 100% wanted to build an aggregator. I think I told you and your dad that when
Yep.
you and I first started to talk, because that's what I had done. So I'm somebody that loves a challenge, and so after what we were able to do and how successful we were with Integra, to me that was proof of concept. Now I wanted to prove that I could do it on my own without Integra, right? And I was able to do that at Greenway, and then and we kind of worked our way. And so I knew that I knew what I was talking about, and I was one of the people that could make things happen in terms of building aggregators, especially in the South Central region. Um, but then I also kind of started to see, and I this is no offense, I'm a big Redwood fan, but I started to see everybody knew somebody. It was almost like being a real estate agent, right? Everybody has one in the family, right? So it got to be to where there were so many aggregators. To me, I just
Right.
felt like it was a race to the bottom. Well, we'll only charge you this percent. And I started to realize that the least amount that you charge, that frankly, the less value you're able to provide. What I
Right.
loved about what we were able to do in the value proposition when I built the previous aggregators is I could say, and then we have these mastermind sessions, and we have these conferences, and we're going to train you this way, and you can have your support staff come to the next month's training, and we're going to train them too on the best way to be successful growing a business. And as you know, when those margins get kind of slimmer and slimmer, it's hard to offer that same value. And so I kind of
Uh-huh.
sat back and said, I don't really think that this is, what I want to do with Infinity after all. I just feel like I don't want to race people to the bottom and I'll only charge you this much. So I started to realize that at the time, and I don't think that the numbers have changed that much, but the average insurance agent, and I think that the life and health numbers may skew this a little bit, but at least on the personal lines or property and casualty side, was 57 and a half. And it was back then that I started to go, perpetuation is going to be an issue. Most of these agents do not have somebody in mind to take over their agency. And so one of the things that I started to do is I started to look at agencies whose agency principal was getting on in years, and I started to reach out to people and say, hey, look, this is who I am, this is my background. Have you considered possibly selling down the future? No, I'm not interested. Well, do you already have a perpetuation plan in place? I don't even know what that means. And I would start to kind of sit there and talk to them and say, look, what I want to do is be an option for you in the future if this is something that you decide to do. And so I just started to reach out to people and say, at some point when you want to do this, I'm willing to pay you this much, and here's how we'll do it, and you'd be involved for this much time. And that's how I started to grow Infinity. So rather than go and recruit independent agents and help them get their start, I just started to kind of recruit
Smart.
a group of agency owners that knew me and that I would give some value back to in the form of consulting, with the idea that eventually some of these agents would sell to me. So that's kind of what Infinity has always been, right? It's been a way for me to stay relevant, to make a little bit of money, but to eventually build up a enough revenue to be able to kind of be a player in
Well, then
purchasing
it's
us.
and then it's yours.
Of
it's
course,
not
yeah.
it's not aggregated business, right?
Right.
And I think that's super important. I love that you kind of shifted that. I don't know if we had caught up on that, or if I knew that's kind of what you've been up to, but I think it's really smart, because it
Right.
is true. There's a lot of people out there that are kind of sitting, or I mean, especially the news that has been coming out the past week or two, especially in the
Of course.
property, we're really this year in property and casualty. Some people are just done. They're ready to hang them up, man. So I love that strategy. That's, hey, let me go this route instead.
Right.
Because you're right, a lot of people haven't even thought that through. They have no clue. They're sitting, they're cruising.
Yeah, and with a year like 2023, I mean there's even more of them out there. It's a blue ocean out there of opportunity for the right agents that have that mindset. And so for me, I don't have to buy people right now. I just want to be in line and at least one of the people that they consider when that time comes. And so those are the things that we're trying to do, outside of Viva. But yes, you're right. Viva does take a lot of my time. It has been extremely rewarding because it's yet another way that I've been able to help hundreds of agencies. And I always took a lot of pride in the fact that I could tell people I've personally recruited, trained, and onboarded over 215, kind of independent agents, and that was kind of something that was a legacy thing for me. And now to be able to help another 200 plus, agencies and employ, nearly 500, young professionals in Central America, to me has been extremely rewarding. And it's why, if you give me 48 hours notice, give me less than that, I'm going to find a way to come and tell the story because I love what we're
I love
doing.
it.
I get up every day excited to figure out what am I going to learn today, who can I help, and who can help me, because I mean I have met your dad, and you are some of them, some of the smartest agents that make me think about how to run a business differently than I ever could have imagined. And so I believe that every day that I get an opportunity to talk to an insurance agent to be an opportunity to get better, and that's why
Absolutely.
I'm always going to be available for something like
Well,
this.
let's stay there, man. Let's go through. Let's crack open the can of worms of what is Viva. What do you guys specialize in? And I know there was a question. They're in Central America.
Sure.
And then Rob, maybe you can talk a little bit more about. There was just a quick question earlier. Just wanted to touch on that real quick. But take us through it, man.
So
Who is Viva? What do you guys do?
I'm sorry, I'm not seeing the question. The question that came through is where are VAs
It was
located?
Yeah.
there where
Oh, I
where
see
they're
it right
located.
there. South
Yep.
America.
Yep.
Not South America yet, but Central America. So we actually started in San Salvador, El Salvador. That's where we kind of consider our world headquarters. I just got back from there, last Thursday evening, and I'll be back. I go about once a month, so I'll be back there in 3 weeks. There. It is a very, very Americanized culture. I mean, it's crazy. The first time that my wife and I went, we heard all the negatives, right? You hear of, MS-13 and all these other kind of things when you're thinking about some of these countries in Central America. And so when my wife and I went, I I sometimes will admit this, but I was scared, and so I'm like, "You're coming with me because I have no idea what I'm about to walk into." And what was incredible is that from the first time that I landed in San Salvador, and my partner was driving me towards the capital city, I started to see like amazing malls and plazas and just LED lights. I mean, it looked like I was in Vegas. I'm like, where in the world am I? And I see things that we don't have it here anymore. Bennigan's and Little Caesars and Pizza
There's
Hut, and I'm like,
Bennigan's.
what?
Are you
So
serious?
there's still Bennigan's, right? So every once in a while, my wife and I, when we're in town, we're like, let's go to Bennigan's. Let's go get a Moons Over Miami or a Monte Cristo. All the things that we used to eat when we were gluttonous kids, and now we would never kind of put in our mouth. But if we're over there, every once in a while we're going to try it. So, but San Salvador, just to answer your question, is kind of, I would say where about 80% of my people are. We also started, right? Again, I have made more mistakes than just about any insurance agent you guys are going to talk to. So
Hmm.
if you're considering another country, well, Mexico sounds pretty awesome too, right? Because I love beaches. And so we opened up a location in Cancun. It was awesome. We had clients that would come. They were able to write off trips. I mean, it was exactly what I wanted. But what I did not think of, because I'm not the smartest guy, is for what we pay, which is extremely competitive pay, in these countries, it's very difficult to live anywhere close to the hotel zone in Cancun, right? And that's where we had our nice offices, right? Because we wanted people to come and be able to see the beach from our office, all that stuff. And so I made the mistake of going, hey, the location is good. We have to stop opening up offices in places that are untouchable or unreachable for our employees. And so that was one of the first mistakes that I made. So Cancun is still very near and dear to me. But we shut that down, and we instead went to Mexico City. And so probably about 30% of our, well, I'd say about 20% of our people are in Mexico. We do have a small team in Quezon City, Philippines, because like I told you, I was part of starting another VA company that's based out of the Philippines for one of the previous companies that I started. And so the guy that helped me found that company, that's now one of my competitors, is now runs my Philippines operations team or whatever. And so we use our Filipino team for the overnight hours to help
Yep.
with some of our West Coast clients and on special projects, that they have that experience in doing so.
Real quick here before you get into all of Viva, Mr. England, how you doing, Mr. England? Hope all is well. Do all VAs work in your offices or are they remote?
Yeah, it's a great question. Not all of them work in an office. What I will tell you is that when we first started, we started at the very beginning of the pandemic. 0% of people, including me, worked in an office. As things went, kind of went through the pandemic time, whatever I got, we had about 230 something employees, and all of a sudden, we got the green light that we can now open up offices and we can have people, but they still need to be 6 feet away, and you have to have all these partitions. So it was very difficult for me to take 200 plus VAs and immediately say you have to come to an office, especially. And here's the thing: it's one thing if Rob Lopez wants them back in an office so we can build culture and I can kind of have an eye on them. It's a completely different thing when I say, "Hey, Joe, um, your VA needs to come back to the office," and they're fighting me on this. So I think I'm going to have to take the VA away. All of a sudden, my clients are like, "No, I've trained this person for the past 2 years.
Right.
Leave them at home." So,
Right.
it's for reasons like that that not everybody is back in the office. But we're hiring about 80% in the office now because we do believe it's a little bit better product. And when I say better product, everything is the same. The people are the same. The profile is the same. Even some of the cybersecurity measures that we go through to protect everyone's data is almost identical. The only difference is I can see when somebody shows up to this desk if they're 40 minutes late, right? And so that extra
Right.
visibility of my team leadership and my management team to be able to go, "Hey, Rob, why did you just show up?" I'm going to reach out to your client and just make sure that they know that we're going to make up that 30 minutes because you were stuck in traffic. And so for me, I like that. The only other thing is that there are storms now, maybe not as many as there are in the Philippines, but from time to time when that happens, being in a professional kind of office with enterprise level, internet speed and power backups and generators in these big, office buildings is, in my opinion, a little bit better of a product. And so, yes,
Right.
we're trying to bring it. I think our breakdown right now is we're probably around 43% in offices. Was the last number I saw about a month or two ago, and our goal by the end of
Close to half.
2023 is to be
Yeah.
about 55 to 60.
It's good. It's
What
good.
are
So
some of the
what's
most common tasks that your
Yeah,
VAs are tackling?
yeah, great question. So, I mean, it really varies, right? Other, so I am a networker, and so Wesley Anderson at Agency VA. I mean, the ins boss guys. I mean, Ani Potter, whatever I get. We're always talking because I want to get better, and I'm like, let's build a mastermind for VA companies. We have to get better to be able to continue to support the industry. But where they kind of start to differ with me is I believe VA is an entry point, for any agency, right? I think that it's the inexpensive way to begin to see the value exchange that comes with paying a little bit less, but getting still that 40 hours a week, 160-hour minimum a
right?
month. But my point to that is that we can do a little bit of everything. And again, most of what I'm going to probably tell you about is more of the property and casualty side of things because that's really where they're used most. But we can do anything from just back office support, kind of managing a CRM, doing data hygiene to make sure that the data that the clients or that the carriers have is consistent with what's in the CRM and vice versa. To what I think one of the best ways that a newer agency, could use a VA is frankly just keeping them out of trouble with carriers or with E&O. And so policy auditing, making sure that that field producer uploaded a signed agreement, on
Right.
time, make sure that they created, the applicant file within the management system, and then maybe even, just doing some auditing to make sure that everyone's getting their commissions right. Hey, you didn't put it the right way, so because of that, we're not going to know to pay you. But
Right.
then we do specialized services. So we do commission reconciliation for aggregators all the way down to the branch level. That's one of the things that we're doing for Redwood and a couple of other groups. We also have an MGU out of Arizona that we do that for their 100+ agents. We can help with personal lines quoting, commercial lines quoting. One of our new things is that we have a couple of Florida carriers that have recently hired us to do all their claims follow up and their first notice of loss intake
Okay.
on a bilingual basis. So we have specialized teams and that's most of our business, but we still offer the everyday value exchange of, hey, for less than $2,000, I can get you a full-time person, as a VA.
Yep. And that's what, Ryan, like what you were saying, obviously Viva would more than satisfy this because they
Yeah.
do. And that's the other cool thing. I think, and the reason I wanted Rob to share his backstory and everything and all of his experiences is because it does translate into the actual virtual assistants and how they come to you. So it's not like, and I know there's a lot of people out there. They're like, man, you can just go direct, and like just go get direct VAs. And I'm like, okay, yeah, don't get me wrong, you can.
Yeah.
Right. But then it's kind of like what you're even talking about, like, well, I didn't think about, people not being able to live in Cancun, right? That type of thing where it's like, you don't realize that you need to have all these VPNs set up and you need to have all this cybersecurity and you got to have what are you going to go? You're going to go fly and find them, if they steal data, or if they do something, and I think, having somebody that has it already set up, that has been doing it, but ultimately when my virtual assistant gets to me, it's not like they're brand spanking new and I got to train them from the ground up. It's more of, hey, let me tweak a little bit to my agency standards, even though the standards they're coming over at is already a good standard.
Right.
Then it's like, hey, let's just tweak this kind of a few things that we need to tweak. And then boom, voila, you're ready to go. Right. And I think a lot of agents are getting burned because they're spending so much time trying to get somebody to sit in the seat. I think that's also where virtual assistants win. You're not going to find a gold mine every single time. Right. Now, for us, we have had amazing VAs pretty much the whole time. We haven't really had to replace anybody. But if you do, guess what? Rob can instantly put somebody into that seat where it's like, hey, maybe I spend 6 months training somebody new. And then they end up leaving me. I mean, think about the time value that is lost in that, right? So I love that your people come over pre-trained. They have some of your experience already instilled in them. Is so valuable.
And not only that, I mean, and I'm glad that you brought that up because that is a big, wave. Is everyone's like, hey, don't worry about it. I'm just going to go direct. There's Upworks, there's onlinejobs.ph. There's so many ways to do it, and I'm a big fan of them all. The issue is, like you said, there's going to be a lot of starts and stops. You're going to have somebody that is just focused on training them, constantly building curriculum, making sure that you know what's going on within the carrier level. We have entire, HR, an HR department that handles everything, making sure that they're paid, making sure that they're staying, making sure that there's enough perks to keep them loyal to us, so they're then able to support you. But really, what ends up happening is I think our data security is second to none on the VA side. I know this because I talk to agents all the time that say, "Oh my gosh, no, nobody is doing this." But the best part is that in the event that your VA, and which inevitably they all will, right, finds another opportunity or something happens, they're having a kid and they leave you, especially if they're direct, we can literally come in with backup. We are documenting processes. Every one of our VAs is tasked with documenting the processes for the agency, and we don't charge for that. I just believe that a value exchange should be long-term scalability. And so what we do is we say, don't worry about it. Joe's given us his notice, but we've got Tony that's been training behind the scenes that's going to be able to kind of come right in and be able to do that. And that's not something that you can do by going direct. So I'm a big believer that, hey, if you have the time to go and recruit your own and find them and train them, and you know how to protect your data and do whatever like that, why not? I mean, there's so much opportunity for everybody. Go ahead and do it. But if you want a professional organization that has built-in kind of effective and efficient processes that we have built out over hundreds and hundreds of agencies, and there's no learning curve over here, then you probably want to go with the more professional route.
Is your whole crew, your VA crew, is it all PNC?
No, we do have some life and health. We actually just got hired by a health insurance company based out of Florida, and so they have a team of about 20 people. So we do we're kind of their call center. We do chat, email, and voice support, and we do it in English, Spanish, and Portuguese. And so we're doing a little bit of everything now because we continue to kind of grow, and we're not just servicing your mom and pop agents or your
Right.
insurance agency owners. We're now doing aggregators, carriers, and MGAs and MGUs. So.
Right. Do you think that's going to do you think you'll transition away from the individual agent so that you can
No.
because, hey, I'm working with an aggregator, therefore I do get to impact
Yes.
individual agencies, right?
Yeah,
What do you
absolutely.
kind of see that going?
No, so I kind of alluded to it a little bit earlier. I believe that a VA is an entry point, right? But even for
True.
the worker at some point is going to go, is there a career ladder for me to go? And so from being a VA to senior VA to an executive VA, then eventually a specialist, a commission reconciliation specialist, a retention specialist. We have a bunch of specialties that we can kind of do, and they're able to build their
I like that.
career with us, right? And it's one thing that I do want to go back to. I know we don't have a lot of time, and again,
You're good. You're
I
good,
could
man.
talk forever, right? That's my background speaking now. But at the end of the day, what I believe is such a big value proposition is the fact that we do this at the local time zone. They're available when we need them. And what that does that we didn't mention earlier is it makes my people feel like they can build a career with us, right? If you're working the graveyard shift, you're like, hey, this is going to be for a couple of years max, and then I'm going to kind of go ahead and do it. So even the people that are trying to hire direct, don't make that mistake. You're just setting yourself up for failure in 6 to 9 months when they do leave you and they're tired of working the graveyard shift. But
Right.
having the local time zones, having people that know the American culture, because we're doing nearshoring, not offshoring, to find our people. They know that American culture. They know they can build a career. They're never working evenings or weekends to accommodate our schedule over here. So they stay longer. They seem to be happier, healthier, and that's
Good.
really the value exchange as well.
I love that. I love that. And then so kind of as Viva's kind of growing, right? And as you guys are obviously, and I love, maybe let's break down a little bit more of the specialties, right?
Sure.
Like where did that kind of just arise from? I feel like we're just kind of shop talk, but I'm more curious now too. So that's more of a selfish question, but
Yeah.
like where did that come from? Where, hey, a lot of people are just looking, can you help me with quotes? Or can you help me with my service, right? Or hey, can you pick up the phone for us? That type of thing. Where did you kind of, hey, you know what, man, like let's go one step further, because I think it's very important, which again, why I really like Viva, is that career path that you give them, right? A lot of people do view virtual assistants as a VA, right? And it's almost kind of like the term is almost starting to be almost demeaning in a way, even though it's obviously it's a virtual assistant, but it's like, no, they're a part of your team, right? And they have a family and they're trying to stair step their way up to a specialist.
Right.
So where did the specialties kind of come from? Did it come from, I guess, need, or was it more of like, hey, I want to do something that nobody else is doing?
So I'd love to say that it was me being kind of forward thinking and saying I'm going to be different this way, but it literally came from need, but not just my personal need, right? When I built these other aggregators, and your dad know more than anybody, commission reconciliation is a nightmare. When I ran some of these aggregators without outsourcing lots of that work, it would take me about 3 days, 3.5 days every week that we had to do commission. I was stuck in a conference room with my accounting team, making sure that we didn't make a mistake, right? And so I always knew that outsourcing some of these specialty tasks is going to help me have a smaller group of people master it quicker, because that's all they do every day, and it was going to be the best product. And so I through that, then I meet you and your father, and we're meeting, and I'm starting to realize that, hey, you guys have a similar need, but it's different, so let's go ahead and build out a specialized team that can do that, right? I think with them, we are using or with you guys, we are using some of our Filipino team, because you guys are okay with us doing this work while you're sleeping, right? And then coming in
Yeah.
and
So,
doing
and
it when
that,
we
well,
built.
that was the cool part, is like
Right.
the one person that we did have on the Filipino team was like, we got to give her nights back, because it's like,
Exactly.
it's clerical, administrative. Now, don't get me wrong, she's freaking amazing.
Yeah.
She was pivotal for us, man, because and Pop's the same thing. That dude would be sitting with his head down for
Yep.
days, man, going through those reconciliations, just going through the statements, trying to make sure everything lines up, making sure everybody's getting paid. But then, yeah, being able to give her, and then Hanky just said, shout out to Jenny as well. And real quick, well, so I want to answer. We got a couple questions coming in here, not to necessarily cut you off. Let's start here. Can you go over really what does an entry level VA do? So, and maybe take that as in this is what I would have my entry level VA be doing. Yep.
Yeah. So they can do a little bit of everything. No different than if you hired somebody from right down the street. But if you hire somebody from right down the street, they're not going to know how to do 5 to 7 things on day one. So that's another thing that I have to train agents all the time is like, look, I'm glad you have this laundry list of stuff, but you do realize that you're paying about 40% of what it would cost for somebody locally. So you need to be patient, right? So we're big believers that is having a consultative approach. That's what I did with your father. And that's when we uncovered his biggest pain point. And I said, we can build a solution for that will solve that not only now, but forever. And so it goes back to the specialty deal. But what can an entry level VA do? I believe that what an agent first needs to understand is, do I need back office support? I would even say not client facing, not voice. I'm not going to take or make a phone call, but I will do the processing. I will do auditing. I will go into every one of your carriers and I will pull down memos and things like that to make sure that we're sending trailing documents and that we're not getting any E&O things, or we're not failing to upload, documents.
Right.
Those are great uses of a VA from day one, and they can all, pretty much do that. As you start to see a level of success and comfort, then give them more and more things to do. I do believe, though, if you know that you need that phone support, especially since our people are bilingual, just because by nature of where we get them, right? Not because, we're providing, we're training them, specifically for that. Getting off the phones is one of the best things you can do to help your agency, production type deal, right? It's really difficult to be in the middle of a quote and then all of a sudden go, well, hold on, let me answer this call. Then now you're doing something over here and you're like, where was I over here? That's actually why a lot of agents make mistakes. So just having somebody take inbound phone calls and teaching them where to route this to be able to do that, and maybe where to document within your management system or your CRM kind of, hey, I spoke to somebody, they're expecting a phone call. That's a great use of a VA. But then these days, with the crazy reinsurance costs and these renewal rates coming back at 40+%, reshop everybody. Gone are the days of, well, if they're 10 to 12%, then I'm going to reshop you and I'm going to be okay with that. If we're not reaching out to our clients every single year, somebody else is. Right. So I think that's another great deal. Now that's getting more into the specialized, the retention specialist, or just a quote, a quote certified, VA or whatever. But those are the types of things.
So what's the quote certified? So Ryan's asking, so basic training. So what basically, how do they how much training do they have to do when they get to their agency, basically?
It's a great question, and it's probably the biggest question that I get. What I'll tell you is that everybody that by the time that we place somebody in an agency, if they're that entry level kind of VA, they've understood the insurance industry for 3 to 4 weeks max, right? We have a 2-week Viva Academy curriculum that's gonna teach them. Really, the first week is about policy definitions. What is a deductible? What is premium? What is this? What is that? And why is insurance important in the U.S.? Here's another thing. There in many of the countries that actually own and operate VA centers, call centers, insurance isn't even a requirement, right? So we have to teach them insurance, 101 first. Then what we do is we start to teach them frequently use CRMs, so Better Agency, the agency Zooms, all of those kind of curriculums. We kind of take them through that. And then we start to show them the management systems, the top 5, your Epics, your AMS 360, your Easy Links, your QQ, different things like that. And so everyone will have a understanding of how it works. And as we start to teach them each of the systems, keep in mind, we don't know which agency is going to choose them and where they're going to go. They start to realize how similar they all kind of are, right? And so they will have a baseline understanding of how things work, what industry terms are, and things like that. Then when, let's say, a agency says, I want Tony, then what we will do is we'll pull Tony aside and we will do a focused training period of it, normally at least a week, where we go, This agency uses easy links. We're going to deep dive into easy links. We're going to show you how to,
Good.
create an applicant, where to create tasks, do things like that. He uses, let's just say Easy Links Raider, but let's just say it's a different one. He uses Turbo Raider. Let's teach you Turbo Raider. And we start to kind of work our way through there. In that focus training period, that's when it's going to start to gel a little bit more for them. And then what we have is what we call a nesting period. And the nesting period lasts 6 weeks after they've been placed, into where we have somebody that is a subject matter expert in the tools that VA is going to be using, that every day is reaching out through kind of like a Slack. We use Google Chats, within our company, going, Tony, how's it going? Is there anything that you're having a hard time with? Let me record a quick Loom video and show you how to do that. When you have lunch, come to my desk. I'm going to show you how to do these things. And so we're constantly supporting the VAs within that first, 6 weeks too. So that's kind of what it looks like. But we can do a little bit of everything, down to really kind of, high level stuff. We even have, because of the proximity of El Salvador being less than a 3-hour flight from Houston and Miami and things like that, we find a lot of people that have dual citizenship, and with those, I can get them licensed. I bring them back into Texas. We get them licensed. We do non-residence licenses and things like that, and we do have some of those as well. So from entry level to the licensed specialized deals, Viva can do it all.
That's really good. And then we have so maybe let's kind of take the back end just to kind of, hey, I'm interested.
Yeah.
Obviously you guys can reach out to Rob. If you guys go to what's the website is this Viva
Viva VS. So Virtual Solutions is what it stands for. So Viva Virtual Solutions is the name of the company. VivaVS.com is our website. But you were about to ask costs, right?
So yeah, average cost, like what is it? I know you guys have multiple different options. So
Yeah.
maybe just kind of take a couple minutes going through that.
So, I mean, you're on the lowest end, you're looking at about $1,800 a month. And that's going to get you 40 hours a week, minimum of 160 hours a month. The only month that you're only going to get 160 hours is in February, where there's only 20 working days. Just about every other month, you're going to get that extra 16 hours or so for free. We don't charge extra for that time. We'll guarantee you a minimum of that much time. If you're looking at more of the specialty, it can go up to 2,000, 2,200. On the license side, it's about 3,000. So it's not a huge savings versus locally, but we're not big believers that every agency should have a licensed VA. We believe that an agency that is scaling and is in growth mode should have 2 or 3 VAs doing all 80 to 85% of the work, and having one. And we even offer fractional time, with a licensed agent, one licensed person that's overseeing everything, and in some cases having those reaching out to the clients that do need a coverage conversation or whatever. So that's kind of the way that we do it. So we do have these hybrid packages where you can have a VA and then up to 8 hours a week with the licensed agent to be able to make some outbound calls and to reach out to some of your clients. So those are the things that we do, just because that's what our clients are asking us for.
Yep. And that's another thing, and we'll kind of wrap it up with that. But I mean, that's kind of why I really like Viva, is that y'all are growing too. Which when you're growing, and it's why our new CRM that we're in is Sales Pipe CRM. So I'm sure you've probably seen me post that. You may know Jeff, maybe you don't.
I love it. I love Jeff. I love Sales Pipe. I'm actually a white label user myself. We have a product, Viva Connect, that is based off of Sales Pipe, and Jeff is incredible.
Right on. So, yeah, and but it's like kind of to that point is he's growing, and kind of we have these conversations because he knows, well, hey, if Joe's asking, like, then he starts building it out. He actually builds it out too, which is freaking like, oh my gosh, wow, a developer that actually develops shit and doesn't just say, about another 2 to 3 weeks. He actually gets stuff done. But it's more to the point of, hey, as these companies are growing, y'all's willingness to listen, because that to me is where the growth comes from, is that, hey, what do people actually need? And I think virtual assistants, like what this question is, even, hey, them getting licensed as the industry grows, sure. But to me, I think just what they're going to be doing within the industry is what's going to change. Just with the task, with the new, I mean, it, Rob, you've been around long enough too, that there's a new shiny object out there every single week.
Oh yeah.
So we are evolving as an industry. That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, and that's what makes it exciting. Absolutely. To that question about, can we get them licensed? Well, not everybody can get licensed. Not everybody has that dual citizenship. I was part of a meeting in San Salvador last week with the U.S. well, it's Kamala Harris's department runs it, but it's called the Partnership for Central America. It's funded by the U.S., but it's meant to create jobs in Honduras, Guatemala, and El Salvador. And so I was there with a bunch of other kind of call center owners in those countries last week. And at the end of the day, I'm telling you guys, the things that are about to be offered, and we're even working on a specific visa that will allow more people in Central America, especially those 3 countries, to be able to get licensed. I think that will be a game changer. But those are some things that we're working both with the government of El Salvador and the U.S. But there's some really cool things to come. Being able to get value a little bit less expensively than what you can do here does not necessarily replace the U.S. jobs. It just makes those U.S. jobs that much more streamlined and profitable. And that's what we're trying to do. But what I really love about what we're doing, and I think it is that big differentiator, that's why we're the only VA company that has a Latin word like VIVA as our name, is I believe that, we're able to make a difference within the insurance industry that we serve, but also within these countries that our people live and work in. And every single day when you turn on the news, I try not to watch the news because it's depressing, but we see this crisis at the border. For me, one of our goals from day one is to create high-paying jobs in these countries to where they don't have to risk their lives to maybe get into the U.S. And so for me, that's one of the things that we've been able to do. It's incredible to see the change that we've been able to make. And I just believe that it goes hand in hand with what every insurance agent already believes in their heart, that we want to serve people. We want to be there in their time of need, and that we've been able to do that on both sides. So that's why Viva, takes so much of my time, but I'm also still an insurance agent that loves speaking shop every single time I get an opportunity to do so.
Yep.
So thank you guys for that opportunity this morning.
Oh, definitely, man.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming on. I'm curious about something a little bit off topic, and
Sure.
when I say a little bit, I'm being I'm exaggerating because it's a lot off topic.
Okay.
So
Briefs, by the way.
1995 to 99, you were a broadcast coordinator for the Houston Rockets.
Yes, sir.
So I'm assuming you were there for the sweep of the Orlando Magic.
So yes, I was, and I have a fake ring to kind of prove it. But it was, I mean, that was the, a highlight of my young kind of, working career. I was interviewing, Akeem Olajuwon and Clyde Drexler and Charles Barkley and Scottie Pippen when he came over to play for the Rockets, and it was an incredible, I had to pinch myself every time. Just to go like, is this really my life? And then I got a girlfriend, right? This was my college sweetheart, and her mom would constantly go, well, you're working all the time. When are you going to have time for our daughter? Different things like that. And I'm going, you know what? This isn't easy, but it was so fun. And
Oh, yeah.
And so yeah. But yes, I was there at the tail end of that Clutch City kind of reign, and it was an incredible time in my life. Went to the University of Houston. I'm still very involved with the University of Houston and all their athletics. I founded the Guy V. Lewis Award that we give out to the best high school basketball player in the greater Houston area every year. And many of our players, De'Aaron Fox and Justice Winslow and all these guys, they're all playing in the NBA now. And so it's been really, really great and rewarding to be able to see that. But at the end of the day, I'm a sports nut. I'm a dad. I love insurance more than I probably should. And I just love every opportunity that's been kind of placed in my lap to be able to kind of, leave the world a little bit better than I found it.
Awesome.
Absolutely,
Well, it's certainly been a big pleasure having you on, man. Thanks for
Awesome, guys.
taking time
Anytime.
out of your day to sit with us and have a chat. So
Absolutely. Thank you again for the opportunity. And for anybody, I didn't see many of the questions that popped up, but if anybody sees this and has a question, by all means, reach out. We've got a little bit of syndicate love we can give back to you in the form of a discount. And as always, guys, we're big fans of everything that these two guys are doing each and every week. And so when I got the call, even though I had a bunch of meetings planned, I'm like, look, I can reschedule those. I want an
Appreciate it,
opportunity
man.
to hang out with these guys. So thank you so much, Tony. Let's get to know each other a little bit better.
yeah,
You guys have a wonderful rest of your week.
absolutely,
Yeah,
man.
man.
Thank you guys for tuning in. We're here every Wednesday, 9 a.m. sharp. Don't miss the next one.
It's the peak of the week, baby. It's Wednesday, right? So let's keep winning. I hope everybody's having an amazing start to your week. But kind of like what Rob was saying, if you're feeling tight, if you're feeling stretched a little thin, hit up Viva. Again, I can say it just because we've been using them probably for almost a couple years now. They've been an amazing solution to us in our business. It doesn't replace work. You still got to work, guys. but it allows you to work more efficiently. So let's get out there. Let's work more efficiently. Let's really think about it. But ultimately, let's keep winning. We appreciate y'all. Hope everybody has an amazing rest of the day. Later, guys.
Take care, guys.